When it comes to you and what people remember about you after they've met you, do you want them to have 10% recollection or 60? My guess is it's the second. And here's the data behind the 10% or the 60. We are 60% more likely to remember what we see in a visual than what we read. So why then are we making people read resumes? Why aren't we creating graphics that tell our awesome story? Tune in and learn how we think about creating executive graphics and the power that they can have to tell your story, whether you're looking for a job, a promotion, or just trying to help make it easier for other people to understand why you are uniquely awesome. Join us. Welcome everybody to today's show. How to explain your brilliant brain with a graphic. I am so excited to see everybody. We have lots and lots to cover today. We are, heads up, going to be looking for volunteers to do some transformation work. I'm gonna try and be an artist today and probably fail abysmally, but I think we'll get the point across as we go. As always, stick your hand up if you have questions. We are going to have, if we have time for Q&A, this is going to be a bit more interactive than one of our usual shows, but we are going to be talking about your brilliant brain with a graphic. Okay, so let's get started. And I want to get started by showing you all something. Hang on a second. And it is this slightly weird, slightly blurry image. And I share this for a very key reason. I created this document in maybe 2002, 2003, a very, very long time ago for a project I was assigned to at the time to figure out how to make not only two teams come together and work a little better, but also to rebuild kind of our quote to cash system. Slightly dorky, very boring stuff. And this slide specifically was built to explain to the executive team why the current process didn't work, because there were, I think, 25 people who were touching an order at the time. And my presentation and what I was pitching actually took the 25 people down to 6. And that was my entire presentation. Now, I'm not going to go into that whole presentation and what I was doing, but what has happened from that graphic is why I think you should all have some sort of visual element that makes it easy for people to recognize how you think in your future, what you want people to know about you, and how you can add value in the future in the way that this graphic did for me. And I say this in a really dramatic way. Like it, just to kind of give you an example of the longer term impact that it made, it was used, I'm trying to say it, cancel, go away. It was used and then shared throughout my career. And it meant that I got assigned this really plum project back when I was trying to cut my teeth and make a name for myself. It also got me signed on a project that got me to fly to China every 4 months for about 4 years and work on a project there. It's what also then got me assigned to the mergers and acquisitions team in our organization. I became part of the welcome wagon for any company that we acquired. It's also what got me the opportunity to get loaned out to a different division in the company. I actually got loaned out to a completely different arm of the company and got to learn a whole new business in the process. absolutely everything I just talked about was in the same company. This was not about getting a new job. It wasn't also, by the way, about getting a new title or a new promotion. This one graphic is what the executives would keep sharing and saying, hey, we want more of this brain. And it had a really big impact. I will say that it also is what I ended up drawing a version of that on a whiteboard in my interview with the CEO at Pandora, which is part of why I got the job. It's also what then later after Pandora got me some consulting work at NPR, which was a whole different amazing experience. Here's the crazy part of it. It also included 5 additional job offers of people who had seen this and knew that I was the author of this graphic, and how I thought, and because I was consistent about it, 5 different job offers that I turned down, one of which was offered 2 weeks ago. Don't worry, I'm not quitting what I'm doing. I am changing the world and I am completely focused on this. But this is, what is that? 20 years nearly later, and I'm still getting job offers because I was super clear about how to explain my brilliant brain with a graphic. Super clear. And I know that you are all here because you want people to, for lack of a term, tap into your brain and how it is going to be tomorrow. You want people to give you the plum opportunity, to give you something more interesting to do, to help you grow and change, to maybe even get a new job. It's a critical process in there. And for those of you that are data wonks, your brain remembers a graphic 6,000 times more clearly than it does text. 6,000. It's such a dramatic number. It's why if I asked you all to, you could probably draw the McDonald's Golden Arches right now. Because the Golden Arches give you the promise of a potential of a clean bathroom and tasty, crispy French fries. This is what logo and branding and everything does. And I sit here and say, you have the ability to solve problems in the future. It's why people hire you. How are you describing this? Because when people understand how you think, and they can see what your potential could be in the future, they can choose the future you. And if they can't see you, they can't choose you. And I'm going to go back to the Cinderella story. You'll remember that the fairy godmother judged Cinderella because if Cinderella had shown up in a sad little outfit, even one that her mom had worn many years ago, they would have not let her in the front gate. She had a bunch of decision makers that she needed to get past just to get to the ballroom floor. And she went down the big staircase so that the prince could see her. Then he chose her and she ended up being awesome and all of the things. If she had snuck in a side door and gone like, oh, I'm part of the consideration set, he probably wouldn't have seen her, even though she had a big fancy dress. So it's getting past everybody that counts. And how do you create something that does that? Now, don't panic. I'm not going to ask you all to go spend $1 zillion creating a logo for yourself. You can even see that graphic is really old and a bit blurry that I showed you before. It does not have to be something fancy. And we're going to do what I mean by what does not something fancy look like, but drawing pictures makes a really big difference because we are visual humans. Okay. I'm going to do a slight sidebar on this one and tell you all a story because I think this also really captures how dramatically an image can make a difference. And if you've heard this before, I ask you to just play along for just a second. My guess is many of you haven't. So I am going to describe a thing to you, a bit like a thing is a resume. I'm not going to talk about people. This is a thing. It's a bit of a riddle. And I want you to try and figure out what it is. So let me start. A newspaper is better than a magazine. The seashore is a better place to start than the street. At first, it's better to run than walk. You may have to try several times. It takes some skill, but is easy to learn. Even young people can enjoy it. Once successful, complications are minimal. Birds seldom get too close. Rain, however, soaks in very fast. Too many people doing the same thing can also cause problems. One needs a lot of room. If there are no complications, it can be very peaceful. A rock will serve as an anchor. And if things break loose from it, however, you will not get a second chance. So for those of you who have had this experience, I am guessing you are all like, I don't know what's going on here. If you have not had this experience, how many of you have a clear picture of what the heck I was just talking about? Just do a quick wave at the screen. Does anybody have a really clear picture? I do not see any hands going up. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to pop that up there. Let me stop sharing. And now now that you have a picture in your head, let me read it to you again. A newspaper is better than a magazine. The seashore is a better place to start than the street. At first, it's better to run than walk. You may have to try several times. It takes some skill, but is easy to learn. Even young children can enjoy it. Once successful, complications are minimal. Birds seldom get too close. Rain, however, soaks in very fast. Too many people doing the same thing can also cause problems. One needs a lot of room. If there are no complications, it can be very peaceful. A rock will serve as an anchor, and if things break loose from it, however, you will not get a second chance. Yeah, it's your brain suddenly goes, oh, I can see all of it. Your brain just painted a picture of the potential of a kite. It's like lights went on. This same phenomena happens both with you and your potential. It's why I call myself the potentialist, why I think you actually need somebody to kind of help you see who you could be, because it's impossible to see who you might be if you haven't seen it before. It's also why other people can't see it either, not if you haven't painted a picture. And I gave you words the first time and you still couldn't do it. And those same words, although we'd like to think that patterns and buzzwords in what have you exist in your resume. And I sit here and I go, we are missing this massive opportunity to paint a picture of how our brain thinks. And we've all just experienced a complete shift in how we think just on a visual. So I am now going to show you the example from my side as well. Hang on a second. We're going to go back to our kite because here's what my resume looks like. I am not expecting, or at least I should say that's what it looked like, I think, when I had to apply for the job at Pandora. But that was only because they required it of me before they actually could put me into the HR system. I did not get the opportunity to interview at Pandora because of my resume. I haven't interviewed for a job because of a resume since 1993. You know, I drink my own Kool-Aid. Most people look at resumes for a maximum of 6 to 8 seconds. And I have given you guys more than that. And my guess is you're all finding this slightly boring because this is the past me and it's not the current me. This, however, is a version, we are recreating the how does Joanna's brilliant brain work, of what is the future me. Because the future me is the potentialist and guide for the future you. I am at that point in the line where I both help you figure out, as your potentialist, which green line is right for you. And as your fairy godmother, I make sure others can recognize and remember it. And fundamentally, I need to tweak this graphic and make it more my own. But that's what we're doing. And I would say that the leave behind of the grass slipper, of the entire thing, is a little like the, and I am very excited to show you guys, glass slipper in the story. I want you to remember about what was the job of this item. Here, let me turn this off so we can all see this crystal fabulousness. The job of the glass slipper was not just to say, hey, I want to leave a little gift for the prince and it fell off my foot. I actually think there was much more intention, and I think the fairy godmother had everything to do with it, because here's the thing about the glass slipper. Um, when the clock struck 12 in the Cinderella story, everything vanished with the exception of this. It did a couple of things. One, when the prince went back into the ballroom, and the prince is the opportunity, for those of you who have not heard my Cinderella rants about how she is the model for how you can maximize your career in the future. When the prince, AKA your opportunity, went back into the ballroom, he had other people he could choose from. So if you are looking for a promotion, I guarantee you there are other people in your organization who are also looking for promotions. If you are looking for a job, I guarantee you there is more than one applicant for the opportunity. You have competition, really awesome competition, who I'm sure are lovely people, but you have them. This little guy helped the prince remember why Cinderella was uniquely awesome. And when he woke up the next morning and had to go to dad, AKA there isn't a hiring manager on the planet who doesn't have to report into somebody, their peers, their boss, their team, about why they hired or gave somebody a project. This was the thing that helped remind him and explain to his dad, in this case, why Cinderella was the one. And it's a really hard-working crystal shoe. It made it easy for the prince to find Cinderella the next day. It was almost like a calling card. I would argue that the glass slipper was the first example of corporate swag before there was such a thing as corporate swag. And I think those stories go back to, like, I think the Grimm's brothers even stole this story from somebody. So glass slippers, super important. FYI, if you want your own glass slipper, ping Kelly with your email address. Of course, I'm all like, this is so fabulous. We have to do something with this because everybody needs their own glass slipper. I think it's fantastic. I'm going to stop sharing it. So how do you create it? It does more than just actually explain your brain. It becomes almost a leave behind in the whole process. I think it's really important to think about all of that. Okay, so enough of me talking. I want to do some showing. So who has an ambition or a need to teach somebody about the future them and would like to be a volunteer to get a graphic insta created with my very poor art skills? Although I'm super excited because we have a creative director who joined the call today, who I hope is going to help us with this in the future. Kelly, do we have any volunteers?
Marcia actually just raised her hand.
Marcia. Awesome. Okay, Marcia, you want to come off mute there for a second? So first of all, and no pressure on this, quick question. Have you been to one of my events before? Are you familiar with the Choosing the Future You thing that we
Yes, I attended your negotiations program and I get your emails. And
awesome.
I just love having a fairy godmother. Now I just have to figure out how to best work with you.
Yeah, Cinderella gets to go to the ball. Awesome. Okay, so quick question, just so I can benchmark, and no pressure on answering it the potentialist of fairy godmother way, but what do you do?
I'm formerly a lawyer and I've been coaching and teaching for the last 26 years and just recently became a certified Clifton Strengths coach, which I love. I love the whole version of just people discovering what's right about them and working with their teams and supporting each other in that realm.
Awesome. Okay. Who do we need to teach about why your brilliant brain is fantastic?
Well, this is where I have been kind of grappling and in the process of rebranding for about a year now. And it's looking at a call to support the different generations working together. Okay. And communicating in ways where they can really hear and support each other and fulfilling.
I'm going to stop you just a sec, but that's what you want to do.
Oh,
Who's going to buy you? Who's going to pay your mortgage rates, all of the things you need to get paid for? Who is going to
yeah.
rent? Who's going to buy a subscription to the future you time?
Well, my current clients are small business owners and who are either beginning to build their team or have a small team and are looking to have their teams thrive.
Okay. Okay. And why are you really good at what you do? Time to brag for just a second.
Well, I care. I just.
All right, I'm gonna stop you only because, like, coaching in the Joanna world, you come to me for swift kicking the ass. You do not come to me for a hug, as much as I might be the fairy godmother. How I want to do an audience poll really quickly. You didn't think you would just get to sit and listen on this. How many people think that because they care about the people that they work with makes them really awesome? Just raise your hand. We've got that many assholes on the call today. You guys don't care? I don't think
beyond caring.
Yeah, I know it is. I will remind everybody, your ability to get shit done, your ability to play well with others, and your ability to solve problems in the future are what we are paid to do as human beings. They are not unique things that only you do. And that, Marsha, was a little bit of an version of it. And I just use that as an example because, I mean, yes, you need to do all of these three things, but I just want to point out you would all be fired if you didn't do these three things. And let's not talk about all of the folks who don't get fired for not doing these three things, but it's usually because they're really good at explaining their brilliant brain, graphic or otherwise. This is the key. And so let's go back. So why are you good at what you do?
Yeah. I teach people how to play nice together, work well together, and solve problems, and
Why
be able
is
to.
that important? Why is playing nice? If you play nice, you can solve more problems, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's communication. It's being able to calm down, cool down the hot buttons. I kind of specialize in the area of conflict management, conflict resolution, coming from the legal field.
Mm.
So it's being able to see the problem objectively and work together to find innovative solutions that fit the problem.
Okay, hang on. You've given it to me. And I am going to show you my very ugly drawing. Right there. Like, it's just a Venn diagram that I scribbled on a piece of paper. This is how unfancy, by the way, your graphics can be for everybody who's listening. This unfancy, because how many of you, so it says, just so in case you can't read my hand scratch, in the top it says communications. In one of these, this one, it says de-escalation. And those over here, it says objectivity. How many of you had your own kind of kite moment when it came to Marsha's brain when you saw that as a single graphic? Yeah, we've got Dawn sticking her hand up. We've got Leslie, got a bunch of people waving. It's that fast, right? So now my question, so I think what's awesome about this is not only does it talk about the future you as somebody who's a Clifton StrengthsFinder coach and somebody who helps teams play nice so they can solve problems, but it actually speaks to your past as a lawyer. It doesn't invalidate your law background, because you could say something to the effect of, like, just pretend you're at the beginning of the conversation. Like, my past is actually as a lawyer. And as a lawyer, I learned some of the key things to ultimately solving problems, which is what a lawyer does for their team, their client, their company, is you have to be really clear on what you're communicating, because when you're not, then there are misunderstandings. You have to be able to de-escalate hot buttons and actually anticipate what they are, because people get really emotional about things that they care a lot about. And last but not least, you have to have objectivity about the bigger picture. And when you have objectivity about the picture, you can actually navigate through the hard stuff. Now, these same skills that I learned practicing as a lawyer allow me to bring this kind of teaching to teams so that they can figure out how to play nice together and ultimately solve the problems that you need them to solve. And as you were talking about this, on a piece of paper in your meeting with, as I hide my ribbon, you draw the circles. You just draw the circles for them. And then you say, because you don't need this, let me give this to you. This is your glass slipper. Super simple. And you just give it to them and let them run with it. Well done. I want to see what you do with this. I'm very interested to see what you do with it. Again, does not need to be fancy, because that then be's a message. Now I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a meeting coming up that you can use this with?
I do.
When is your meeting?
May 19th.
Okay, so I think that's time, because this show will be live on YouTube on before May 19th, right, Kelly? Oh, we can't hear her, but she's nodding. So
Thursday, this coming Thursday, it'll be live.
I'm guessing you can remember this, but I would love to see you use it in your presentation, in your meeting, even if you are just trying to close for another meeting as opposed to closing a deal, because this repeated over time starts to build reputation, starts to build brand, because the other thing that this does is it allows them to have something really simple to explain you to somebody else. So now imagine you are the decision maker in this company that is going to hire you in the future. And you have to go back to your team and say, hey, I've brought this woman in who's going to do some stuff. And do you want him or her to say, well, I'm bringing them in so we can learn how to play nice? I don't think so, because I know if my boss came in and said, I'm bringing somebody in to help us figure out how to play nice, I'd be like, what are you talking about? We're totally playing nice. We don't want to hear that. Now, if I came in and said, look, we're going to talk about communication, de-escalation, and objectivity, and how it will help us solve problems better in the future, that's not a ding on me. That's actually an opportunity for me to learn. Really slightly different positioning. Okay, who else wants to have a go with that?
Thank you.
Leslie raised her hand.
Leslie, is that Leslie Lukesh?
Yes.
Am I saying your last name correctly, Leslie?
Yes, you are.
Awesome. Okay, so you heard the questions. First of all, have you seen the Joanna Crazy before?
Yes.
Oh, Joanna, awesome. Okay, just checking, because if it's a new day, I'm a little less brutal, as I was to Marcia just now. And just so we all know, again, no pressure. What do?
I run huge software and business implementations for banks, and I connect between the business and technology, get them to play nice. But of course, that's everybody has to play nice together, just like you said.
Okay.
And my desire is to do that on large scale, but also to lead into more of the strategic roles at these companies.
Okay,
So
what do you mean? What do you mean by strategic roles? Because strategic is one of my hot button words.
Oh, okay.
What is the? Are you known as the get shit done girl?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the get shit done girl. You gotta deliver something within the first 3 months, or else you should be fired.
Okay, so you don't want to be known as get shit done girl. You want to be known as, you want me in the room before you even decide what to do, girl.
Yes.
Okay. I'm also, so this, by the way, is where the magic happens in all of this. So Deb Hockemeyer, if you're on the call, I want you to look up Leslie on LinkedIn and connect with her. And Leslie, Deborah is freaking awesome. Y'all are in the same-ish business.
Gotcha.
Funny feeling you might be able to help each other as you navigate this space together. Because Deborah's been getting yelled at a lot recently. We had an awesome session last night. She is going to crush it. I'm very excited for her. We have all sorts of things going on. And I know that Deborah and Leslie should get to know each other because they're kind of in the same industry and could help each other, because Deborah has taught me how she thinks and who she is. And I've gotten a little bit from Leslie, and I just sit here and go, 1 and 1 equals like 20 in this scenario. And this is where the value of teaching other people who you are and what you do and how you think can pay off. Because I am not entirely sure what magic may happen from this connection, but I am absolutely convinced that magic will happen. Plus, and I want to put this out here as an additional learning, what I also just did there was I increased my relationship capital with all of you. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing, every single one of you were like, wait a second, I want Joanna to introduce me to somebody. Because of my relationship capital with Leslie in the last 2 minutes and Deborah over time, I'm able to make those connections. And let's just play this out for a second. Let's just pretend that absolutely nothing happens from it. Does not matter. I just look like somebody who connected 2 brilliant women to make something happen. They're going to be like, cool person. I'm going to get like, I don't know, 2 points in the relationship capital bank of Joanna. Mm-hmm. If Deborah shows up and is a complete and utter waste of Leslie's time, I am confident that that is not going to be the issue. Even then, Deborah might lose a couple of relationship points. Again, not going to happen. But Leslie's still going to go, well, you know, Joanna introduces me to interesting people, and maybe this one didn't work, but it might. I'd still get a point or 2 out of the whole thing. Now, I'm pretty convinced magic's going to happen. And I know that at some point in the future, Leslie and Deborah are going to go, oh my God, do you remember when Joanna completely jumped the script and did that big introduction thing on her live show and it started this beautiful magical thing? I get like 1,000 points in that. Here's the thing with relationship capital. The more you give it away, the bigger your bank account becomes, and the bigger your bank account becomes, the more you can actually have impact. And I know if you're on this show today, it's because not only are you ambitious for yourself and the future you, but I also know, based on all of the conversations I've been having with you, you are all generous as all get out, and you all want to make really big changes and impacts in the world. And to do that, you have to have relationship capital. It's why, like, I've got a lot of relationship capital. It's awesome. But if Michelle Obama popped on this call right now, you would be all like, super sorry, Joanna, you are chopped liver, because she has more than me and can use her relationship capital to change the world. And so go out and be both ambitious and generous at the same time to increase your relationship capital bank. Empty it every day, because the more you do it, the bigger it comes. Okay, I went off on a whole sidebar here thing, but I think it was really important, and I'm going to want to know what magic happens there. Okay, so I now know what you want to do. Who needs to describe to me the people who need to buy you?
Managing directors, the C-suite, or one step below the C-suite of banks, trust companies, wealth managers, investment managers. Those are the kind of companies that I work with.
Okay.
On both the technology and the business side.
Okay. And are you a consultant? Like, do you have your own company that does this, or are you part of an organization?
I am part of an organization. I have been a consultant in the past and am considering
hanging out your own shingle.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And is the company that you work for a consulting firm, or do you actually work for one of the banks and wealth management?
I work for one of the banks.
Okay. So you actually, okay. Super helpful. Okay. And are your decision makers mostly guys, or do we have a variety at this bank that you work for? What do they look like?
Fortunately, it's mostly men, although diverse men. How's that?
That's good. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that just, and I asked that question because it is infinitely easier to recognize somebody's potential when they look like you and sound like you.
I know.
Bias is only a character flaw if you do nothing about it, which means that if you do not look like or sound like the people that you are selling to because you are selling the product of you, then you need to work a little bit harder. I'm super sorry that that is the situation, but it is. And you can either be mad about it or you can do something about it, which is why I hope you're here, because I'm all about doing something about it. Then once you get into the position of power and you are in the room being the person who says, this is what we should be doing as opposed to get shit done, girl, well, then you can change the conversation. But we are not done changing the conversation there. And only looking at the general genders in the room, I think that's important to say. So now I know who your buyers are. I know where their blind spots might be. So why are you brilliant at what you do? Time to brag.
I can jump between the details and holistic picture very fast. So I can go along and quiz people as to what's blocking or what do they want to have done, drill down, and then drill back up. In fact, people have complained that I jump too fast and they can't keep up with me.
Well, why is it good that you are that fast?
For me, I think I just do the connections faster and I'm able to find more connections and just kind of try to simplify the problem. What is the issue? What is the block? And really try to break it down into doable pieces. That's why I'm like, get it done in 3 months. There's always the big hairy goal, but there's so many little incremental things that you can do along the way. And there might be a big goal somewhere in there, but you know.
Okay, I got enough.
Good.
I got enough. Okay, so here's my pitch for why you are brilliant. When you are trying to make transformational change powered by technology in your organization, you need to be able to balance between the big picture and the details. The big picture because it's the strategic vision, and the details because there's a lot of moving parts to make that happen. The problem is that many people think it's just a singular line and a singular path that happens. But in reality, see, I actually drew you 2 pictures. It looks more like this. And every single cross of the line is where things can go wrong.
Yeah.
The way to mitigate the crossing of the line is to have this high-level conversation about the crossing of the lines before you activate, which means you need to have somebody in the room who thinks like this at speed and who can think through all of the big picture and detail elements and identify where those connection breaks might be so that you can eliminate them before they start. And my mind moves at speed between the big picture and the details and allows me to remove the roadblocks before they exist. Again,
wow.
Not 2 graphics, but not fancy ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is how you can do that. I want to unpack this a tiny bit for everybody because there's a pattern. I know lots of people are like, how the hell, Joanna, do you do this at speed? What I'm listening for in all of these is, what is the product that you want to be able to sell? Who might need to buy that and why they care? Because yes, I have been in the room where projects like Leslie's have been decided against and have decided, like my career kind of prepped me to be able to do this because I had my hand in almost every single organization. But I'm literally saying, going, why would they give a shit about it? But understanding what the product is, because the first step in all of this is, what is the product that you want to sell and why is it uniquely awesome to you? Because this is not a get shit done conversation. Now, is there a version of this that says, look, we can do it this way? It's just going to take like 10 times longer. And by the way, it'll piss a couple of people off along the way. So is anybody on the call not in technology operations? So how many of you are like, I get why Yeah. So Lisa, do you get why Leslie's brain is awesome?
I totally get it. And I overlap with her and I need the likes of her.
Oh,
I don't think I'm the right fit for her, but I appreciate that brain.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's my guess is that brain sits on this call. So here's the nifty thing is you can draw this one too. I've absolutely given away my workflow graphic that you saw at the beginning of this conversation to other people. I've absolutely given it away to other people to use, because how other people are going to describe that graphic and who they are and what they're all about is going to be a little bit different for everybody, because you are all unique, special snowflakes. I actually think millennials have it totally right. And what your version of big picture details might look like is going to be a little bit different. Here's the thing, you know, as much as I am trying to change the world out here and say, look, everybody needs to start thinking this way, because if we all start thinking this way, all boats rise. Like if we all get to do the work that we are supposed to do in the way that really amplifies our natural talents and who we are and our ambitions, everybody wins. We've all been part of a team that does that. My audience is not that big yet. So yeah, just as a heads up, although, oh, and Kelly, I cannot believe I'm about to say this out loud, but spoiler alert, although this is going to take a while, we committed to hosting a future U-a-thon in December, where I will be doing 10-minute transformations for 24 hours straight around the globe. So if you are on the call and you think your company wants to get involved, because they will get to decide who I do the transformations on, let me know. Drop us a line at hello@the-Amplify Lab, especially our international listeners, because we want to go around the world. And my guess is the people in the United States will not be up at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm losing my mind, but I'm going to be doing this, maybe not with the pictures, but a version of this for 24 hours. And live streaming the whole thing. I'm a little terrified. I'm just going to put that out there. But we thought, you know, let's go big. Okay, looking at the clock, here's what we're going to do. And I can see, Sandy, your note. How will I stay up for 24 hours? Because I am stubborn and I will. Plus here's a little insider information. My husband is an adventure sailor and writer, and spent a year solo sailing around both the Americas and Antarctica, which meant that for 297 days, he had to do what is called phasic sleeping, which is where he only slept for about 10 minutes at a time, because if he was asleep, the boat might sink. And that would have been bad. I would have been super sad. So he's actually going to teach me how to phasic sleep. There will be little nap periods in there, but I know I've lost my mind. I'm going to do it. So you should all stay tuned, because there will be shenanigans coming, and I hope you all tune in. Okay. Here's what we're going to do, because I know that some of you are like, I want to do this too. I'm going to wrap up the rest of the show. Kelly, let's leave this on, because I want to continue. I want to at least fit one more transformation in. But I don't want to miss out in talking about what's coming up next week, because what's coming up next week is as critical as this show. And just to give you, here, by the way, are some examples of some of the executive graphics that we've created for other people. And we really think about when you do one-on-one work with me, what story are we trying to tell? Is it a career path? Is it a timeline? Is it something else? Because you are renting a subscription to your future time, and we want to make it easy to buy. Your resume, while very important and a critical piece of your toolkit, is basically like a nutrition label is on a can of beans. And you are far more interesting in a can of beans, and a can of beans even has a picture of the beans on the front. So we need to do better than that. Here, as an example, is an executive graphic we created for the brilliant Dawn, along with language that goes along with it to kind of describe who these characters are, the synthesizer, the launcher, and the producer. If you haven't already seen from the materials that we sent already, as you showed up today and heard me do all sorts of crazy stuff, we are offering early bird on a new product we created, which is how do you fill in a bunch of questions and have Joanna create you a graphic? We do have a bit of a template. It will start to look, you basically get this version and with the language. It is not custom. Joanna is going to craft you your own narrative, but it's pretty darn close because I think this tells an amazing story about Dawn. But it's an offer we are offering out to everybody. So if you want to purchase one of them, I think it's a whopping, we've got it in the system for $9.95. So if you want one of these created for you to start moving your way down the path, we're going to do that and then give you instructions on how to use it with the decision makers in your world. So Kelly's going to be dropping a link in the chat to that. We'll also be sending a link to that in the follow-up materials because we are curious to how many of these we can create for people and what impact it's going to have at the end of the day. So only if you are on the live show do you get to be part of this. If you didn't show up or you watch this on YouTube, super sorry the link's not there, but tune back in because we're going to have new things coming up. Speaking of coming up, next week, I am going to be talking from the great state of Maryland. I'm moving across the country, but I'm going to be talking about how to make it easy for your network to help you. If you are looking for a job, sending notes out to your network and saying, hey, I'm looking for a job, can you share my resume with people, is not making it easy for your network to help you. We have a template that we have created that allows you to customize what you say to them and make it really easy for them to say, I can totally help you. If you are looking for a mentor or you are looking for a sponsor, you're looking for an advisor, and you want to make it easy for them to say yes to you, sending them a note and saying, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. Will you help mentor me? Also not making it easy for them. You are making them guess what the future you could be. So come to next week's show, noon Pacific, and we will be talking about the template. We'll be sharing the template with everybody. It is all good. As I said, ways that you can gauge, we do have the graphic opportunity. We're also going to have Kelly share, I can't speak today, information on, and I know I mentioned earlier, Deborah going through the executive transformation experience with me, what that looks like and what's included. It's a fairly intense program. We go quite fast. There's all sorts of shenanigans that happen, but we've dropped that in the chat if you are curious to find out about that. At the very least, here is my challenge to all of you from this show. A blank piece of paper in a meeting can be a powerful tool when you're meeting with your boss. So just at the very least, draw your circles and start filling them in so that you can sit here and go, hey, is this what we're talking about? Because you are more than just one thing. You're kind of a combination of things. And we want to be able to help people understand who it is. I have gotten so many jobs because in the interview process, I have said, do you mind if I draw this for you? It's really easier for me to understand and for you to understand. And while they have given me a funny look, I've absolutely made that happen. And if I was interviewing in this virtual world, I would just do this on paper. You've seen how I can do this sort of activity, even in a virtual environment. When you are interviewing back in person, I dare you to A, not have something to write notes on, or B, have a whiteboard in the room and just start drawing. You do not need to be an artist, unless of course you are Lisa Van Dusen, and then absolutely you do. But doodle your way to doing something. So try it out. If you're like, I'm not so sure about this, try it out, see what happens, and then give your art away, because it is your glass slipper. Okay, last thing before we go, we have got a bunch of new shows. We've got 2 more on Eventbrite that you can sign up for. You go to joannabloor.eventbrite.com. Kelly, I know we have got shows all the way through like September. You want to talk about what's coming with the new shows? A little bit of a heads up.
Yes, so we are going to be doing our new shows basically almost through the end of the year, at least until we until fall. And we're basically going to be doing a program that's going to easily build on itself. So at the very beginning, we'll be talking about really at a granular level what it means to be the future you, kind of resetting how we're thinking about our future and ourselves and our ambitions. And then as the events keep going, Joanna will be teaching tips and tricks on how to put those into actionable items. So get yourself to that next space, start working forward like Joanna does. And hopefully by the end, you're going to have everything you need to be that future you.
Running. Awesome. Although you can also watch all of them later on YouTube, because this is what we do. So come,
That's true.
you get to do the experiences. And speaking of coming, most of you know that there's also a bonus. For one lucky person on the call today, we are not only going to be doing the graphic, but we're going to be taking you through our very new program that we are developing. Marsha, just because you talked about Clifton Strengths Finders, the how I am describing it to the layperson is we have created a version to a certain extent of the Strengths Finders framework, but actually to talk about your potential and your future you as opposed to the present you. So we're going to let the folks at Clifton and Myers-Briggs and DISC continue to do an awesome job about who you are. Team Amplify Lab are going to be talking about who you could be and how do you start describing that person. So we've got early stage, we're in with that product. And so whoever gets to get their graphic created will not only get to experience that, but also get some one-on-one time with me, which means, Kelly, you get to spin the wheel. Who is our winner this week?
This week, our winner is Lacey Teal.
Woohoo! Congratulations, Lacey. We're going to be reaching out to you with information on how to get started and all of the things. I look forward to our one-on-one session. We've got 9 minutes left. So who else would like, do we have another volunteer to do a demo? Lisa, I see your name going up, but this is a decision being made in a room that you're not in, that is my head. Until you can write to me and tell me your one thing that I need to pitch for you, we're not going to do it, because I know you're going to give me like 12 things and it's not okay.
You want the one thing.
I want the one thing.
What if I could tell you right now?
Do you have a one thing?
So the one thing I want right now is to pitch myself as who I am, not who they want me to be, as the head of the Palo Alto Community Fund, as the amplifier of the Palo Alto Community Fund.
But is the why the pizza? Well, we're going to, you know what, Lisa, you and I should just have a chat separately.
Okay, well, so I'll send you an email.
We're going to have a chat separately. Okay. For those of you who know, Lisa's basically awesome, and we have known each other for years. And so I'm super hard on my girlfriends that I am on everybody else. And I want somebody who hasn't had this experience. You've had lots of pizza and lots of conversations. Okay. So, okay. I want another volunteer. Do we have another name that's going up? Now I've just said no to Lisa.
We do. We have Ellen, our good friend Ellen Sneed.
Ellen! So great to see you and hear from you. FYI, folks, Ellen has a book coming out. And so I want you to talk about that before we talk about your graphic.
Yeah. So my book is called Lead: How Women in Charge Claim Their Authority. It's the distillation of 25 years of working with women from manager to CEO levels and looking at what it's like for women to hold roles of authority. Women are great leaders, but my argument is there are lots of things about the role, managing role and relationship, and managing all the issues other people have with women in authority. So it comes out in September, and I hope you tell every woman you know, because it has lots of gems and case studies and insights that are my beta readers have said are enormously helpful.
Yeah, and I think, spoiler alert for you, Ellen, let me just put this out here as a teaser. Ellen worked in probably the most patriarchal organization on the planet. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to leave that where it is, which talks to her experience in navigating a exceptionally male-dominated professional space, and a bunch of other stuff because she's awesome. Okay, Ellen, who do we need to teach about the awesome you? Are we teaching about the book with the graphic? What are we doing here? Explain me what we need.
So I think the graphic will help the book and help pitch to the people that I want to hire me as a consultant because of the book.
Okay.
And will pitch to the companies that I want to buy the book for the women in their organizations.
Okay. So you need HR executive, C-suite, etc.
Right.
Okay. Although I just had a genius idea, by the way. I'm very honored to say that Ellen, am I still, do I have time to still write the blurb for your book, or am I too late?
Yes, I'm going to send you some information.
You're going to be like, would you please make that happen? I think I'm going to draw a graphic in my blurb for you.
Woo!
And it needed to be a bunch of words. I just had a genius idea there. Okay. So I don't want to talk about the book per se, because I want to talk about how you think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just own a tiny bit of this. Is I think this most patriarchal organization on the planet thing is actually something a little intriguing. And I don't want to give it away, but I think you need to own that, because it is absolutely why when I met you the first time, I was like, wait, what? This is fantastic. And I got very excited. So
you'll be very pleased to know that it's in the blurb on Amazon.
Excellent. Well, see, now you all can go on
to
Amazon and find out what the secret is.
To you.
You find out what the secret is, because it's just cool, and it'll make you go, oh my God, who is this woman? I need to learn more about her. But what are the other two things? Like what are the other two things? Because part of it is this model of really having to figure this out in a world that it was not figure outable, quite frankly. I think they're still struggling with it. But what are the other two things that you want people to learn about how you think?
One is that I accelerate my clients' focus on the future of their business and their career, as opposed to getting stuck in the present or the past. And the other is I accelerate, I focus on their, or I enable them to know more clearly what they actually know. I help them to discern their own knowledge, which a lot of women don't trust or discern. Most women, when I ask them, what do you want to be in 5 years? They don't have the answer. But I've yet to meet a guy who doesn't know what he wants in 6 months.
We could have an argument about that offline, because I actually think they have no freaking idea either. They're just not practiced in not coming out with a confident answer. And that's the difference. But this is where you and I can have an argument. There was a lot of words in all of that. Mm-hmm. Like if I was to sit here and say, so that is the value of what it is you do. It's also, it also sounds a bit like everybody else's. Mm-hmm. There's something about,
what people say to me is that I ask great questions.
Yeah.
They also tell me that I kick their butts.
I can imagine. So here's, I think your graphic, and I'm not going to be able to do this fast enough. Perspective. possibility. There's another P word in there. I think your graphic looks like this. I think you've got a workflow, because to get to where they need to be, they have to make these shifts, because there's the future shift, which is perspective, or what is it you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the possibility shift.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another P word in there. Get into your dictionary or thesaurus and think about what P word you want in the future. Okay. There's something there, and I think you can actually, like, this is your methodology, like, come in, and there might even be more than 3 boxes here. But if you go back to the clients that you have transformed, because they're all basically, and I get this because people say this to me all the time, they go, I don't even know how you did this. It's like you magically ended up there. And I was like, oh, no, there's absolutely a step 1, step 2, step 3. Yeah. In my world, like, what is your playbook? And I'm going to challenge you. I will find this for you. I think I've talked about this before. Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, wrote a really great article about his playbook, and not only gave somebody who is he and what is he all about, but how to work with him better. I think there's a version of that for you, but one that could be created in a workflow.
Great. Thank you.
No, it's all good. Get Friends. If you're a PowerPoint fan, they have all sorts of graphic types in there. I'm personally a super fan of beautiful.ai because it makes me look like an artist without having to be an artist. Gotta love that. They have all sorts of graphics that you can use as tools that you can do this. But again, you'll notice I've done this with a pen and a piece of paper, and I think you've all seen the difference. So we are right up at the hour, and I know you all need to leave and get back to your awesome lives. Have a wonderful Friday, and I hope you all have an amazing weekend. Thank you all for coming. Invite your friends, come to the next show, because I am about letting you all be as ambitious as all get out, while also being generous so that you can maximize not only the potential for you, but for others too. So tune on in again next week, where we're going to be talking about how to make it easy for your network to help you, because you have no idea when they're going to make it happen. Thanks again for coming. And to all of our volunteers, you are all awesome. Ultimately, we're here to help you figure out how to teach other people who the future you is, so that you can be you in the future. Because the clearer you are about who you are, what you want, and teach other people why that's awesome, the more likely you get to be you. I know, it's a bit of a circle. I'm Joanna, your potentialist and fairy godmother, and I wish you the very best. Thanks for coming.